Hey everyone, welcome back to more political chatter. This video, we will be discussing the 2024 Democratic National Convention. So this is the 2024 DNC. Of course, the conventions of each party, the Democratic and Republican parties, they hold a convention every year to officially nominate someone for president. There really isn't much of a purpose for it anymore. There used to be when there were contested conventions, but now in the age that we're in, the nominee is almost always decided during the primaries, and it will only really be contested if we have a close race in the primaries, and still the superdelegates have to decide the nominee. So, and of course, the conventions, they do hold some power, I guess you could say. They make a difference in presidential elections. Of course, most people or most parties hold it in a swing state, so therefore they have an upper hand in this state, as we always see a boost in polling during the conventions of these candidates in these states. For example, in 2020, the Democratic National Convention was held in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So, of course, this is a major swing state, went to Biden by less than a percentage point, and they held their convention here. So it does make a difference. So we are already seeing 4 cities place what they call a bid on the 2024 location site of the DNC in 2024. And the cities we have are Atlanta, Georgia, and this is a state that went to Biden also by less than a percentage point in 2020, so obviously it's a swing state. It could definitely be a good place for Biden, for the Democrats to hold their convention they held in 1988 there. The Democrats, there hasn't been any convention since. The next place is Chicago, Illinois. And if we're looking in the history of Chicago's history of Democratic National Conventions and Republican National Conventions here, they have a long history. Chicago has always been a huge city, and it has been an active convention site for Democrats and Republicans. You probably have heard of the 1968 Democratic National Convention, where there were peace protesters, and police beat them up badly, just protesters. And that was in Chicago in the 1968 Democratic National Convention. Democrats and Republicans always hold their conventions here. But the Democrats have not since 1996, and the Republicans have not since 1960. Wow. And the next bid is from Houston, Texas. Houston has only had 2 conventions, one Democratic and one Republican. And the last place is New York City. So, and we'll get to all these. We're going to talk about them and analyze all of them, the pros and cons. So here's New York City. The Democrats obviously have had their convention 5 times here. The Republicans only once, because this is very much a Democratic city and not a very friendly place towards Republicans. So, looking at these 4 places, let's look at Atlanta, Georgia. What are the pros and cons? So, Atlanta, Georgia, if we remember from the 2020 election, no one really thought that there was much of a possibility that Biden could win Georgia, and he ends up pulling it off in a very much a too close to call race. He ends up pulling it off, and he only won it by a tilt margin. Now, Georgia has 16 electoral votes. That's the same amount as Michigan. That is 6 more than Wisconsin. Heck, that's 5 electoral votes more than Arizona. That's 10 electoral votes more than Nevada. This is very much a competitive swing state, but most importantly, it's a much needed swing state. There's swing states like Nevada that only have 6 electoral votes, but Georgia has 16. Georgia's 16 electoral votes, I promise you, could really come in handy in a presidential election. So not only is it only a swing state, this is very critical for the Democratic Party to win in 2024 if they want to win. They're going to need states like Georgia. They're not guaranteed to win the blue wall. They're most likely not going to win the blue wall. But if they could carry Georgia, that could at least give them a shot. So Atlanta is a city that is shifting very much to the left. I mean, we see this in cities in Texas, in California, and in Georgia. Atlanta, these cities are becoming more and more populated. More and more people are moving to Georgia, but they're moving to Atlanta. This is a growing city and it's becoming a Democratic stronghold. And if they really want to establish, this is big here, if they really want to establish Georgia as a Democratic state in the future, this would help. Holding their convention in Atlanta. This really would help. So the next city is Chicago, Illinois. As I was talking about, in the 1968 DNC, here it is. I really do not think that this would be a good place to hold their convention. Oh yeah, I also wanted to say that Atlanta, I believe, is a great place to hold their convention. I'll get to first to last later on. I think Atlanta is an amazing city to have their convention in. Chicago. I think that this is not a very good place to hold their convention. First of all, the mayor, Lori Lightfoot, she's not very popular throughout the country. This is someone that Republicans are like, oh God, this lady, annoying, right? They're not someone like Tulsi Gabbard, someone that Republicans can find common ground with. And there has been a lot of crime in Chicago lately. And people are really really having distrust in Democratic mayors across the country in big cities. Eric Adams, Bill de Blasio, both in New York City, and Lori Lightfoot is a good example. In the 1968 DNC, this really does not help the case for a DNC being held in Chicago in 2024. It really won't. People will be reminded of this. Alright, they really will be. They will be reminded of this nomination, and they're going to remember how, let me find a picture of how protesters were beaten, like, badly. There was blood all over the place. Sorry, I can't find a picture. So, in the Vietnam War, it will not give the Democratic Party a good look to hold their convention once again in the state, or in the city of Chicago. Up next is Houston, and I really don't think that this would be a bad place to hold their convention. I mean, this is another city that is growing very much Democratic as more people move here. Alright, they are growing in population rapidly, and Houston is just, adding to that. Their population is growing big time, and like Atlanta, that would be a good place to hold it. Now, this was a Trump state by 5.6% in 2020. But I mean, this would help trying to make, establishing Georgia as a Democratic state, but this would help Texas be established by the Democrats as a swing state, a state that is up for grabs. They could bring up the 2018 Senate election that was decided by 3 points. They could bring up the 2020 election, which was decided by 5.6 points. So they really could talk about how this is a swing state and how they could win it. This is in the realm of possibility. And, it shows that if they're willing to hold their convention here, then they are going to fight for the state in the future. So I do think that Houston would be a very good choice. So the last city is New York City, and this city is not doing very good. There's massive violence. Many people hated Bill de Blasio, the previous governor, like Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, all alike. Eric Adams is the new mayor, and his campaign promise was to stop crime in the city. But there's just flat out, there's a lot of violence in this city. And like Chicago, it's one of these cities where people are going to see there's a Democratic mayor. It's heavily Democratic. And there's a lot of violence and crime. It's another one of these cities. It's the same old story. So, do I think New York City would be a good choice for the convention? No, I do not. Because they're just going to view it as another one of these Democratic cities that it's not tough on crime, and it won't help them win a swing state or anything at all. This will add nothing to it. So, which do I personally think would be the best choice? And then we're going to get to what I think the Democrats will choose. So I do think the best choice for the Democrats would be Atlanta, Georgia. I really do think that they could win Georgia in 2024. Texas, it will be out of reach in 2024, but Georgia, they could definitely win, as they won it in 2020. I do think that this would be the best choice for the Democrats for their city. The second best choice I do think would be Houston. I do think this because it is a Republican state. We don't want this as a heavily Democratic state. You have to remember that. We don't want a convention in a heavily Democratic state. Houston would be the second best option. Third best option would be New York City, New York. And it's close between third and last, but I think the last would be Chicago, Illinois. So Atlanta would be best, Houston second best, New York City third best, Chicago fourth best. So, what do I think the Democrats will choose? I do think that they will be choosing Chicago. Okay? I do think that they will be choosing Chicago. This will not be a good choice. And I do think that it's down to Chicago or Atlanta. They could definitely choose Atlanta. Definitely. It's definitely in the realm of possibility. But I do think that it will be Chicago because this. We are already seeing, right here in this paragraph, we're already seeing so many, such a push by the Illinois Democratic Party to have Illinois as the site of the 2024 DNC. You know, we are seeing a heavy want for this by the Illinois Democratic Party and many Democrats around the country. You know, Atlanta, look at Chicago's already proposed a venue, the United, or 3 venues, McCormick Place, whatever these places are. You know, so Chicago has already made this whole campaign for it. And not only that, they have already made a website for the Chicago 2024 DNC. This is like pushing for the DNC to be held here because the future is created here. They literally made a website in support of this. So I mean that alone, they are pushing so much towards it. J.B. Pritzker, Tammy Duckworth, Lori Lightfoot, they've publicly said that they want it here. The governor, a senator, and the mayor of Chicago. They have already said that they want it here. Those are 3 big figures. Pritzker, Duckworth, Lightfoot. You know, Atlanta announces a bid, NYC announces a bid. No one is really kind of really actively pushing for the DNC to be held in Atlanta, Houston, or NYC, but they really are in Chicago. So thank you all for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. It helps me tremendously. I really need your subscription. It really means a lot to me when I see that someone new subscribes. So yeah, thank you all for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe, and I will see you all next time.